best way to do it.
Best practices.
Yeah.
Hey, Hasib, hey, Preston.
Hey.
Hello. Hello.
Hey.
You got seconds to spare.
Yep. The gang's over here.
Okay. We'll go ahead and get started. I call to order the meeting of the Manassas Park Governing Body for June 22nd, 2021. First, we have an agenda before us. It is an amended agenda. I would call your attention to 8C, which has been added. We will discuss council member appointment to the Community Maintenance Working Group. So with that, do we have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Please join us in a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there anyone signed up to make public comment?
No.
No? And we've received no comments through email?
No.
Okay. Okay, thank you. No recognitions, no number 5, 6. Moving on to consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of the approval of the corrected minutes of June 8th, 2021. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to unfinished business. First is adoption of fiscal year 2022 taxes and fees, the public hearing having been held on June 8th and June 15th. For the benefit of the folks at home, I just want to mention that an ERU means equivalent residential unit. So for example, a townhome would be, I believe, if memory serves me, Alan, it would be 0.75 ERU for a townhome, and businesses can be anywhere from 1 to over 100 ERUs. So just for the folks at home, thank you. Okay, do you have comments, Laszlo?
No comments, just to confirm that we did notify Park Place Senior Apartments about the change, and they did confirm that they understand, and that's it, so.
Oh, good.
Okay. Any comments from the governing body? Okay. Well, considering there's no comments, let me read the taxes and fees into the formal written record. The real estate tax will be reduced 2 cents per $100 valuation, the new rate being $1.53 per $100 valuation. The personal property tax will remain the same at $3.50 per $100 valuation. The machine and tool tax remains the same at $3.50 per $100 valuation. Stormwater management fee is up slightly from $146.18 per ERU annually to $149.83 per ERU annually. Solid waste collection fee per month is residential curbside is $20.49. Residential dumpster service, including apartments, is $16.72. And the service to seniors and disabled qualifying for real estate tax relief is $5.58. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Excuse me, I should have read the staff recommended motion, that the governing body approve the attached ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2022 tax and fees rate. Do you also move?
So moved.
Okay, and second. Thank you. Appreciate that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. And 8B, moving on to 8B, adoption of fiscal year 2022 budget.
Nothing to add to this one beyond just the fact that I did email you all out the final budget Q&A question, number 25. It was a pretty in-depth one. We did a lot of research. Tony and we went back to our website. If you look at the adopted budgets page on our website, it goes back to 2007. So if you want to kind of do a historical deep dive of how our budgets have changed, feel free to enjoy that read. And 2011 is when they started showing both city and school information. Luckily, they showed it for 2010. So I was able to go back 2010 and get a full kind of city comprehensive view. But for city specific, it goes all the way back to 2007. So that's presented there. And you can see kind of the pretty dramatic decrease in capital spending that's occurred since those days of those your kind of financial forecast. So overall as a city, we're still below total spending of where we were in 2007, ignoring inflation and everything else. So we're really still playing catch up to this point. And then no change since we advertised the budget in May.
Are there any comments or questions? Yes.
I have one comment. So I haven't had a chance to look at the email, but I remember when we were going through the questions, there was the highlighted in yellow that you guys didn't have answers for yet. One of them was the reduction of the decal fee of the $250. Were you guys able to figure out if that would be a huge impact if we did reduce it?
I thought we answered everything except for question 25. Give me 1 second.
Oh, sure. That's fine.
So I uploaded the entire document to the website again, but I thought we had completed everything. If we missed that, I apologize. Do you remember what question that was, by any chance? I can do a quick.
Yeah, I haven't been in front of the computer all day.
Okay, give me 1 second here.
I don't remember. It was towards the end.
Question 12? Okay. Yeah. Question 12.
It doubles when it's late.
Oh, yeah, $500 for a $30 ticket or decal.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we did provide an answer. So you want me to read the
Yeah,
answer?
if you don't mind.
Sure. It says, so the decal fee is $25. However, in terms of parking tickets for no decal, that's $250. The impact if we were to reduce the no city decal fine would be a lack of compliance and incentive to get residents to properly register their vehicles and pay their personal property taxes. The city in Fairfax and Falls Church do have a reduced fine of $50 for no city decal. If the city was to reduce the fine from $250 to $50, the non-compliance would drastically increase. So we have an issue like we have for community maintenance and parking of just lack of compliance. And so you can see kind of the ticket numbers kind of going up ever since. And even with the 250, even then that you're still lacking compliance. So it says even with the fine set at $250, the city continues to experience the level of non-compliance with citizens failing to register their vehicles and pay personal property taxes. From January 2021 to April 2021, the Manassas Park Police Department issued 633 no city decal violations. Of those, 186 are still delinquent. In calendar year 20, the police department issued 1,109 no city decal citations. Of those, 295 are still delinquent, with an outstanding balance of $152,000 for total tickets, not just those 295. This demonstrates that even with the $250 fine, we are still experiencing a significant level of non-compliance year after year. So, to your point, it is lower in Falls Church and Fairfax. So that's something if we want to consider that they have a $50 non-compliance ticket fee. So that's something we could consider. But we are concerned about just trying to get established a rhythm of people getting decals here.
Oh, right. I mean, that's a huge, from 1,000 to 295, that's a huge step, though, of compliance. And I'm assuming maybe the 295 vehicles might not be residents here. That's why they have not paid, maybe. But this is something we could dive into. But yeah, I was proposing to lower, not even 50, maybe like $100, maybe to at least 150. I think that would be a strong number and still, force people to pay or get a decal at that number. Financially, I don't think this will hurt the city.
No, we don't do this based off financial
Right,
reasons anyway.
so that's why-
It's really just for compliance.
Exactly.
This is
So
for
if
the
we
law.
did propose something maybe next,
I mean, you can make the argument financially again, which is why we don't ticket for financial reasons. But the purpose of why we did the city decal and why we were enforcing that
The
was
compliance.
because of personal property taxes, and you just saw
Yeah.
huge decreasing tax compliance, and we wanted to change that, and we did successfully. And tax compliance is going up, but there's still a ways to go. But that we were losing a lot of money because of a lack of personal property tax compliance, and that was the main reason to go back to the decal. And if you have the decal and you're not enforcing it, then you're not changing those dynamics. But I think you're right. I think we have seen a positive shift over the last couple of years towards greater tax compliance. So at some point it would be nice. I would probably wait another year for the parking enforcement officer to get up in speed and really again ramp up and try to get everyone to comply with the personal property tax requirement before changing it. But again, you are right. It is lower in other jurisdictions.
yeah, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Well, with that, staff recommendation is that the governing body approve the attached ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2022 budget. Motion?
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you all. Before moving on to 8C, I have a email request here. Ms. Sarah Denholm would like to make the suggestion that a code enforcer be hired who does not live in Manassas Park. Thank you, Ms. Denholm. Okay, moving on to 8C. Councilmember Hampton, do you have recommendations or for the discussion to select a council member?
So I figured the best way to do this, and probably the fairest way, is to flip a coin.
Well, since Yessie is fluent in Spanish, I'm going to defer to her. I think she would be a better candidate.
If you're fine with that, then it's even better, and that makes the decision extremely easy. Are you
Yep.
fine with that, Yessie?
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for stepping up.
The coin flip was exciting, though.
I figured that was
Seats
just,
to it.
yeah, it was just 50-50 chance. But that's even better. I didn't have to make any decisions. Can you give the mayor back a quarter?
Is that the official city quarter?
Yeah, and Keith didn't have to flip. Well, we were saying who would be a nice neutral party to flip the coin, and
We were going to volunteer you.
yeah. Okay.
What would be the?
You, Keith. We were going to volunteer you.
Okay.
I was gonna say, what's the next steps now? Since we
Well, the next steps, y'all got an email this morning where I asked everybody to give me 1 or 2 questions.
Sure.
And then probably tomorrow morning before I head off to work, I will write something up for Lana to put up on the website to advertise.
for the
And then once the prolonged period of time is done, then we all will take a look at who responded, and then we'll jointly make a decision as we agreed.
sounds good.
Any other questions or comments?
Via email or at our next meeting?
I'd rather do it in a meeting.
Oh, yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By email, things get lost, and it's just better to do things out in the open.
Okay. Yeah, oh, I agree, totally agree.
And if we have to, we'll flip a coin.
Okay. Any other comments or questions for Councilmember Hampton? Okay, we'll move on. 9A would be appropriation of the PRTC subsidies. And for the folks at home, the city's VRE subsidy that's due on July 1st has been reduced because of federal pandemic relief for transit, so that is good news. So, do you have any comments?
Just for the new governing body members, just wanted to give a little bit of overview here. So we have 2 transportation fund balances that we tap into beyond just the VDOT applications or federal highway applications for transportation projects. We really rely on our match to come from either the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority funding that we get from them that we keep in the city in our bank accounts and are part of our audited funds, and the PRTC motor fuels tax fund, which the PRTC holds on to, but it's in our name. And so each year, when you all adopt the budget, then we had to follow up essentially with approval for them to use some of that money to cover their expenditures, like the subsidy to the VRE and those other categories. And to the mayor's point, it was reduced this year, so it's under what was approved in the budget. So that's something we can adjust in the budget amendment to reduce, but it doesn't really impact our budget. What it does impact is the future fund balance of the PRTC. And if we could ever get it to a level where we felt comfortable that it was enough to sustainably fund VRE and all other operations with a surplus, then we could really start tapping into that to expand how many transportation projects we can do in the CIP. So we look forward to, with your vote tonight, with the budget, where we have a transportation program manager lined up, ready to go. So the offer will be ratified tomorrow, hopefully. So that gentleman will be starting in July, and we'll be jumping full steam ahead and start tackling our transportation program.
Okay, thank you again. Any questions regarding PRTC? Okay, I'm not going to read the resolution. It's very formulaic, but staff recommendation is for the governing body to adopt the resolution allocating $315,035 in PRTC Motor Fuels Tax Fund administered by PRTC staff to cover the city's subsidies for PRTC's FY22 administration, operating, and capital investment costs. Do we have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. 9B is to amend Chapter 24 Traffic Code of the City of Manassas Park, and this is done yearly. This is a yearly housekeeping task. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Every year we present to you that we want to adopt the Virginia Code, the Traffic Code, and the Criminal Code. So this year is no different. There's some big changes and some that are still illegal, but they're not primary offenses. So those are the ones like defective equipment, tinted windows, exhaust, new drivers, learner's permit, stuff like that. Laws and detection of marijuana obviously is going to be legal July 1st. So the staff recommendation is for the city to adopt the recommended code sections in the Virginia Code identified in the ordinance.
Any questions of the Chief? Yes.
We got one question. So I guess the marijuana possession, they cannot still drive while.
Can't transport it in the vehicle. They
Right.
only have it in their residence. And if they do transport it in their vehicle, it has to be secured and a box is not within your reach. I'd have to read the code.
Right. So they can't be smoking and driving at the same time.
Smoking and driving still.
So, yeah. So
It just can't be, if we smell it, can't be a primary offense.
that's what I'm saying. So what if they smoked it before getting in, and then you?
Potentially looking at driving under the influence of alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the penalty for that?
It's kind of like the alcohol.
DUI.
Yeah.
Yes, it's gonna be treated probably like an alcohol.
Oh, okay.
It all depends. It all depends on the amount you find in the car.
Yeah.
If it's over an ounce, or if it's over a pound, it could be a tough felony.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Staff recommendation is that the governing body adopt an ordinance to amend Chapter 24 Traffic Code of the Code of the City of Manassas Park, Virginia, to incorporate by reference Title 46.2 of the Code of Virginia and Article 2, Section 18.2-266 and the following of Chapter 7 of Title 18.2 of the Code of Virginia as presented and subject to final city attorney review. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Manager, FY22 first quarter appropriations for city and schools.
Good evening again. I received a question before the meeting about why we do things on a quarterly basis, and as I was remembering, so much has happened over the last 4 years. I remember one of the reasons we did make the adjustment, it wasn't just for better budget control, but as part of the FY16-17 audit, as we were trying to wrap up those audits, we did get dinged hard for going over appropriated expenditures. That was one of the main points of contention there. So we really, I think it was CSA and a few other things that spike pretty quickly. They can change. Jail costs as well is another one that can change pretty dramatically in a few months. So we always want to stay on top of those things, and if something we feel is going to go over, then we want to come back to you all quickly and amend the budget and adjust the appropriations. That's why we do it on a quarterly basis. We usually do at least a mid-year adjustment, but again, this was just another process change just to make sure that we were staying on top of our expenditures and and we wouldn't go over our appropriated amount the governing bodies authorize the city to expend. So just want to provide you all that background in terms of why we do it frequently. I have a feeling this year is going to be even more frequent because of the ARPA money. Our plan is to come back to you all in July with a full breakdown of what are eligible expenses and our initial recommendation as well. Upon and Tony have been working hard on that, on getting understanding and the constantly evolving guidance coming from the treasurer. And, we thought it was going to be CARES Act plus a few other things, and they came back with a bunch of different categories and codes for what we can spend that on. But in July, that's going to be hopefully the main focus of that meeting, is just going over all those eligible expenses and what our recommendations are going to be for that. And in the manager report tonight, I'll have something else to add on that point. So expect Q1 to change, but the way the city does it, usually we'll divide our operations on a quarterly basis from an expenditure standpoint. But the CIP and debt, we do incur a lot of expenditures up front, so we usually ask for half of those allocations up front to be able to make all of our debt payments, which is, again, the majority of them are going to be in Q1 of the year. For schools, it was a little bit complicated, but I added this table to try to kind of simplify what happened. And did anyone have questions on this, or do you want me to go over the table at all for kind of why the city's
I think you should, for the benefit of the folks at home.
Sure.
Please.
Okay. So in the schools, in their request to the governing body for appropriations, it was this $9.7 million on their cover sheet. But if you go to their back table and you sum up their request by these their actual categories, they're really requesting 10.2 million. So that's kind of the divergence between their two the cover memo plus the table. But this is mathematically what they're actually requesting if you sum up these items. So the city's request is higher than what they requested in their cover sheet, but it's less than what the mathematical request would be. And the reason for that is these two numbers right here. So the budget you all adopted tonight, it was 1.2 million for the capital fund. They put 1.584 million, and in their notes, they say that that's from unexpended fund balance. There is no policy between the city and schools for unused fund balance. So that's something they have to come back to you all and ask for a budget amendment and request to have those funds. So they haven't done that at this point. That's why staff reduced it back to the 1.2 million that you all have budgeted for, and that's to ensure that what you are appropriating is in line with what you voted for in your budget ordinance. And if you want to appropriate more, you can always do that, but you should adjust your budget ordinance to conform with that and with the state law requirements as well. So as your city manager, I'm always going to protect your numbers in terms of what you're appropriating versus what you're budgeting as well, and that's why we reduced that to the 9.8 million. Is there any questions on that? So the motion is based off of those numbers on this table.
So for clarity for the folks at home, the 99,000 plus adjustment to the school request was a math correction.
Right.
The $348,000 adjustment to the school request is, as you said, because you cannot appropriate more than what you have budgeted.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also for clarification, technically a fund balance by law cannot exist without an MOU or some type of formal written agreement. Okay.
That's right. Or governing body action, where you guys can just say, hey, we're voting to give you guys this.
Okay.
And you're absolutely right. You said it correct, better than I did in terms of you can't appropriate more than what you budgeted, but you technically can't appropriate less than what you budgeted for the city or for the schools.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, are there any last minute comments or questions? Yes, Councilmember Javed.
So the additional for the roof, the 384, when will they be asking for that?
That's the.
Would that, well, I guess, would that go under the emergency, what we have with the board?
Did you read the summary of the school board meeting? Did you have time to read that today?
I skimmed through real quickly.
Accommodations have been made. My understanding is for that 348,000.
Okay, so they'll come up with that balance.
Yeah. So it will be budgeted and then appropriated. It will that be through a budget amendment?
School year's money for that, or next year?
It will come back to the city.
Okay, and then they have to come back and ask you all for a budget amendment.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So So I think that's what you were asking is the timeline for
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I'm not certain about what the timeline is for that. But as soon as the new superintendent starts, my plan is to meet and hopefully
Sure.
start a new relationship and get synced here with the
Yeah.
budgeting and everything.
So it'll probably be a budget amendment?
It would have
Okay.
to be, yeah.
Okay.
Because you would have to vote on a new budget ordinance to increase. So I recommend we do that along with, because they're not going to be spending, I don't think they'll be at the point where they have to cut the check but the goal is to present to you all the ARPA budget, and that's going to require an amendment to the budget and to your appropriations anyway, so we can knock that all out at the same time.
Well, according to them, they're going to start this before the fall kids start coming into school. So it's going to be next 2 months, they're going to start a roof project.
I think that's our assumption that will happen that way.
So we just got to be prepared because that 384, you're saying it's going to come back for the FY 21. Then they're going to do an amendment for FY 22. And then we appropriate them before September.
And you guys can do that in July. If they come down
Okay.
with documentation and a budget request, there's no reason why you can't do it in July. But
Right.
that's their discretion in terms of when they want to present it. It's also your all's discretion for when you want to.
But we need something, some guidance, some documentation that would be guidance. Yeah, okay. Do you have a follow-up?
No.
Okay.
I have a quick clarification. Is it 384 or 348?
384.
Okay,
Yeah. Did I put 348? Yeah.
up there. Don't worry, I do that all the time myself.
I flipped them.
I know, everybody does it, no worries.
It's on Excel. It's tough.
I know.
It's on Word.
We're all spoiled, every one of us.
Yeah, so it's the difference between these two, so it's the 384.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments, follow-up? Okay. Well, staff recommendation is, there'll be two separate motions. First motion is that the governing body appropriate $22,560,596 to the city for first quarter of fiscal year 2022. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Second motion is that the governing body appropriate $9,856,251 to city schools for first quarter of fiscal year 2022. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Ms. Denholm wanted to request that we discuss the accidents on Manassas Drive. Perhaps she's estimating 5 in 1 week. And
I'm guessing that's.
Right now or during
yes, I'm
manager?
guessing.
For what?
Yeah. I beg your pardon?
What was the question?
She wanted us to address the accidents on Manassas Drive. I know enforcement has been stepped up. Is that correct, Chief?
Yes, Mayor. There has been an increase in traffic.
Do you wanna- Yeah.
There has been an increase in traffic accidents, and we're trying to figure out how we can address the issue with enforcement, radar, and having our officers move out there. I'm not sure what's causing these accidents, but there's been quite a bit of hit and runs, and some were intoxicated, unfortunately, so we are stepping our enforcement.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Okay. Okay, moving on to 9D, FY 2021 audit engagement.
Good evening, the mayor and council members. This is the yearly event. Every year I come back to present from the audit engagement for FY 21. The audit for the fieldwork had already started, so normally we would come here to get the signed copy of the engagement letter so that I can forward to the state. The FY audit 2021 fee is about $54,700 plus an estimate of the additional fee between $2,500 and $5,000 if COVID-19 stimulus funds, including ALPA, will require more audit work. When that happens, the hourly rate will be kicked in. that is provided at the end of the contract between the city and the auditors. We budgeted for this audit engagement about $56,500, so we have more than enough to cover. The staff recommendation is for the governing body to approve FY 21 audit engagement with Robinson House for the total fees of $54,700. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you. Yes, Finance Director. When was the last time we rebid the RFP for the auditor? How long have we had this auditor?
This year will be year number 6.
6.
Yes. Preferably, we need to change between 5 years, but it's not required. The reason I did not go out for the bid because we have many competing priorities and plus we want to address all other things. And last year we did.
And also if I can add, so this was the auditor that came in FY16, fresh set of eyes. The city had, how long did we have the previous auditor before that? 10 years at least?
10 to 15 years.
Yeah, 10 to 15 years. The previous auditor.
Not a good practice.
No, it's not. And so they were passing the city regardless of everything else. The new auditor came in, Pond came in, realized everything's not right. And it took them a long time to get the books cleaned up. I think we were 3 years delayed with the FY16 audit, but we wrapped up the 16, 17, and 18 audits almost consecutively. And we've been working with this auditor ever since. We can consider changing in the future, but my recommendation is we hold up until we get a new ERP. The biggest limiting factor that we have right now for a successful financial audit is our current enterprise resource platform. It's not as easy as Pond just hitting a button and friendly audit reports coming out for the auditors to review. It requires a ton of work from Pond and her team and an auditor who understands how to navigate the language that is Keystone and the types of reports, if you want to call them that are generated. So it is a best practice to change every 5. I always say we should change every 5 years. I would not want us to jump into another scenario where we're going to be delayed with our audits again because of our ERP. I think we have a good rhythm going right now, especially with the receipt of ARPA money. That's going to be additional money flowing in. That's going to complicate everything. But it also will enable us potentially to speed up the process of getting a new ERP. And once we have the new financial software system, I would recommend at that point then putting out back to bid for a new auditor. But if you all desire for us to do that for the FY22 audit, we will of course do as you wish. It's just we're very concerned about, because of our ERP, how complicated, how time consuming it is to get people up to speed to understand our unique financial software.
So the ERP is slated in our capital budget for 2024?
Hopefully sooner with ARPA.
2024.
So we can, if we dedicate ARPA money to it, we can knock it out a lot sooner if we start, especially with the financial module. But yes, so currently we put, I think, to start implementation in 23. My recommendation is going to be use ARPA money to start that process sooner in 2022 to have better support from consultants who do implementations across the country to help us essentially come in and do the work for us to get the new ERP software up and running a lot sooner than.
That's going to be great. I mean, the sooner we can get the financial system up and running with the new system.
On and her team, isn't it?
Yeah. And the managers, I imagine, with getting data. Oh no!
It's literally Pon and her team working. They worked through a Thanksgiving one year
for clothes. Sure.
Like the ERP does not make life easy for them to do these audits. In my previous employer, we literally just hit some buttons and reports would come out that are auditable. And that's not the case.
Don't want to make was that
it will be.
Was that even though we do an RFP doesn't necessarily mean we're going to change auditors. I mean, they may win the bid again if they put in a competitive.
Yeah, what if they don't win?
Well, I'm just saying that I'm not suggesting that we replace the auditor. Yeah. I'm just suggesting for good government practices that we do an RFP. But I also understand the ERP issue. And, hopefully we can get that up and running sooner than later. And then we can go back out to bid and just see, maybe the Robinson and Farmer will win that bid at that point. But
I actually think we
it's
should
good government
change.
practice.
Yeah, we should change. to get
Change
fresh
is
set of
also
eyes.
important, too.
But it's a strategic decision as well. Like we're doing well right now with Moody's, S&Ps. We're improving our credit score. The state's off our back. I mean, the first few years here, remember how we were being harassed by creditors, by the state, just every week receiving letters about the banks. Our bank here, just about our audits and where we were in terms of accounting. And so we came so far. It was so much hard work, and we recognize Pon and her team for everything
Absolutely.
they did to get us to that point, that we don't want to experience that, at least for another few years here. We want to have a good system that will make our lives a little bit easier. Yeah, I just don't want to ask them to have to go through that again. It was a tremendous amount of work. Even the auditor put in a ton more hours that we actually, they discounted a lot. There was a lot of work that went into that and a lot of sleepless nights, but we got it done. So we're hesitant right now. We're a little risk averse right now to make a change at this point, but we certainly agree with you that it is good practice, not just to put out to RFP, but actually get someone new to come in here with fresh set of eyes to look at this as well and see where else we can improve.
Okay.
Well. So we're in agreement with you, and if we could, we would change it every 5 years. It's just we're a very unique situation. I don't think you've ever experienced a financial situation like we had here. I certainly have not. It was a strange situation we encountered a few years ago that we did a lot of work and got a lot of gray hairs to address. And
It was quite a hill to climb.
Yeah, we really are worried about having to go back to that.
Sure. No, we don't want to go back.
Yeah, we don't want to go back. Yeah.
Follow-up question.
Yeah.
What's the level of effort to do the RFP from start to finish? And you can just guesstimate.
Yeah, I guess we could look at it if I don't know if we have a copy of the previous. I don't think it is that. Yeah.
I don't think the issue is with RFP. You have to be ready for all the challenges that will come along.
Okay.
The other is, whenever we switch to a new auditor, just like we start new back in 2016, because our data condition is still not in good shape. Even though we try to restructure it, we have a lot to deal with. Plus, we have many things downtown. We have new enhancement of web portal. We have many new projects that we wanted to be ready. So I think the good time, the better time is to wait until ERP is up and running.
What I take away is that it's far more complicated than putting out an RFP for a piece of machinery.
It is, but it's the consequences. It's if Pon's point, if someone else wins it and they're coming here, it's again great fresh set of eyes. They will have no clue what they're looking at.
Right.
And it's going to be a huge education effort again from Pon to explain to them the complex mess that is the city of Manassas Park financial software and everything that's associated with that. We have this auditor who spent countless hours learning along with Pon what was going on and going back to year 2000 to figure out everything that's happened ever since. Like
It's like I said, it's just not as simple as putting
Yeah.
something out and getting, I don't know, a new copy machine.
no, it's a lot more.
It was extremely emotional. Just want to share, maybe I should not back to Lasso's point, that Thanksgiving, we worked through until midnight. 1 minute before midnight strike, we made the deadline. And then the next day, the auditors told me, I will not do this again. Because last time when I did that, I didn't get to see my dad. He broke into tears.
Oh.
And then it made me feel really, really bad. About that. For the best interest of the city, the whole team here, we do everything, including auditors. So we have that type of relationship that we have to be careful, otherwise we could kill the independence.
Right.
But I want to reassure the public as well that we do have control of our books. Our auditor has concurred. The state auditor, who we presented to a few years ago, they're all confident about what we're doing as a city financially, and the credit agencies are as well. So we are, even though again we're hesitant to change auditors, it's not because of our financial team right now. It's really because of the software and the data and just explaining the complexity that it is. Yeah. I've never had to seen a software system where we're so dependent on Pon's knowledge about how to actually pull out data from the system. So, yeah.
Follow up?
Nope.
Okay.
I just,
Question? Yes.
So wasn't it, I'm going back to our history of auditors or accounting firms, we actually, before near the system crash, we did switch auditors, and we had one that was fairly cheap at the time, and we had it for like 2 or 3 years, and it wasn't the cause of our auditing problems, but it definitely added to the hardship. And I don't want to put them out there, but that's what we experienced when we switched. Just to give you a little bit of history, and I don't want to name the name of the firm, but so there was we do have history of changing. We did change, but it just wasn't a good change.
Yeah. I don't think you want, like for RFPs, for audits, I don't think you want to go necessarily with the lowest bidder.
No, it's RFP.
It's yeah, you really want to get someone who's good, but who will come in with fresh eyes. So it's not that if we leave eventually Robinson, Farmer, Cox, it's not because we don't like their work. It's just, and we may go back to them 5 years down the road. It's just it's good to have fresh eyes coming in and looking at our processes and our numbers, and it reassures creditors, it reassures everyone that you're staying on top of it. Yeah. That's why we're really trying to prioritize the ERP. I mean, that's Chris's kind of number one focus right now is the whole contract support element and everything else, and getting everything ready for as we receive this federal money to put it to good use to get us to a better position.
Follow-up?
Oh, that's it. Thanks.
Any questions or? Yes, Councilmember Javed.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, can you explain, are they doing the audits for the CARES Act money? Or
CARES Act money or ARPA,
Yeah.
both are from federal government.
Right.
So anytime the amount of the award exceeds $750,000, we are required by law to have the single audit.
Okay.
And then definitely we will pass that because we will be getting a significant amount.
So will they be providing that audit to
Yes,
the
every year,
state?
even prior
Yeah.
to CARES Act.
So if
Just social services alone,
Yeah.
the amount exceeds $750,000.
So say if they find something, the funds that are allocated for use, not designated for, they will report that.
No, we do the reporting, they do the audit to
Okay.
ensure the completeness and accuracy. And then at the end of, on December 15, we have to file a report with Federal Register.
I see.
And if not, just like the first year I got here, every day I got a call from the federal government, that is my report. And even just
Yeah.
last week, I got asked by the state, where are the last 20 years of the reports?
Oh, wow.
I said, I was not here, I cannot answer that.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things still, I cannot go back and reconstruct from day one of the city. I can only go back so far, but not.
Yeah.
I think what you're talking about, so the Ponce Point Pond, we've been sending reports constantly since receipt of CARES Act, receipt of the utility relief funds as well that Patty's been managing, and now with ARPA, it's going to be constant reporting to the federal government and the state. What you're talking about is in the future, if Congress wants to do an audit of use of funds, they could potentially assign people to go out and randomly select.
But not our auditors
recipients.
doing that.
Well, our auditor, they're not doing, it'll be the federal, usually it's
the
Congress, they'll
federal,
send representatives, they'll do it to the military, they'll do it to others to go out and actually audit, and they'll go through all your, but so the better you manage the process as part of your audit, the easier that process is as well, and then documentations, and actually I was gonna bring it up at the manager report, but this is probably a good time, that one of the allowed uses in the ARPA money is to hire a finance compliance person to manage all of this, and that's actually gonna be our first recommendation, is to allow us to advertise that position, to start that recruitment process in preparation for that briefing to you all in July, because it's gonna be constant nonstop reporting. We're gonna want someone who's tracking all receipts, tracking every single expenditure, tracking how it aligns to eligible expenditures, and having kind of ownership of that program, reporting to PON, and making sure that everything we're doing is tracked properly, so that if that ever happens, we're opening up a book
have everything,
of everything that we've done.
But they're going to charge us extra for managing that audit for the ARPA and the CARES Act?
No, because it will require extra work.
Yeah.
Every year they have a priority from the state and federal government on what to audit. And this year definitely is CARES Act and ARPA.
Yeah.
So one of the questions, are we going to spend the ARPA money? I said more than likely not, because we have not received the money. But for CARES Act we did.
Yeah.
So therefore, more of the audit to ensure that we follow the guidance dictated by the federal government in terms of documentation, policy, spend, where the law intended us to spend. So
And that's what this fee is, the 25 to 5,000 extra.
correct. If extra hours are to be required, I doubt it, because we are extremely organized and with lots of leadership. We have set up GL account line by line,
Yeah.
all spreadsheet tracked by each department.
I would think it would be
All-
included in the base price, but I guess they want to charge.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah,
There's-
exactly.
It's a lot of money,
Is it?
and the treasurer's not made it easier easy for everyone to understand. So I can see why they would want to cover
Yeah.
themselves for that. It's especially with ARPA is going to be. I thought it was going to be easier,
Yeah.
but it's looking like
It's
it's going to
gonna
be
be hard.
more complicated. Yeah.
Okay.
You have a
Sounds good.
follow-up?
No, that's it for me.
Any last questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Pon. The staff recommendation is that the governing body approve and authorize the mayor and city manager to sign the FY21 audit engagement letter from Robinson Farmer Cox Associates PLLC as presented. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. 9E is recreational trail grant resolution.
Good evening again. This is an exciting grant that we're very hopeful that we can get. This is again working with Berkshire McIntyre. We're not accepting the money at this point. It's literally just submitting the application for it, and as part of the application process, it's getting the letters of support and resolutions of support from the governing body to cover 80% of our trail resurfacing project for Signal Hill Park, roughly $90,000 coverage from the federal government if we win this award. If we're awarded this, then we'll come back to you all, explain the full details of what that means to accept it, and seek your approval at that time to formally accept the money to use for our trail project. So cross your fingers that we can get this federal.
And it really needs it too.
Yeah.
It really does. Okay.
That's been on the CIP for a while, and actually that was on the first CIP, and we kept pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back. So I think that's why easy.
Hope this comes through. Any questions? Yes.
When will the decision be made? When will we know?
By the end of the federal fiscal year is usually when we're expecting to hear. So I believe they're submitting this grant on the 30th of June, and it could be sooner, but usually it's no later than the end of the fiscal year for the federal government.
Okay.
It's, I believe September 30th.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hampton, you look puzzled.
Well, just a question. If we should be fortunate enough to win the grant, do we have funding in our budget for the 24?
We have it all. So
Okay.
we have the full project ready to go for next fiscal year. So our goal is to help reduce the price tag of what that is.
So we can spend the money on something else?
Playgrounds is what we were going to recommend. We keep pushing back playgrounds, and now it's in the CIP for the CIP for the following year. It's not just Signal Hill, but we're getting calls for other playgrounds like Baker Park as well. So there's kind of pushing demand from our residents to improve all of our playgrounds. So this should free up the money for us to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Questions or any? Okay. Staff recommendation is that the governing body approve the attached resolution in support of the recreational trail grant program application. Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is community development storm sewer replacement in Vassau Court. Hi.
Good evening. My name is Alan Rowley. I'm the city's engineering services manager. This particular agenda item is to replace a deteriorated storm sewer that has failed. We're going to be replacing it with approximately 200 linear feet of high-density polyethylene, which is, while basically a plastic pipe, it's much more robust than PVC. We got bids from different contractors. The parent low bidder was Allstate Contracting with a bid of $49,375. They indicated that if they had to saw cut the asphalt, which staff is very confident they will have to do, there will be an additional $4,500 cost for a total proposal of $53,875. Staff are recommending a 20% contingency of $10,775 for a total of $64,650. Contingency would be largely if there are issues, especially with estimated quantities in terms of excavation and backfill.
That's not in good shape, is it?
Oh, no, it's corrugated metal has its advantage. The biggest advantage is it has is that it's easy to work with and it's inexpensive to install, but only has a lifespan of about 30 years because it starts to corrode after a period.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none and hearing none. Thank you, Alan. The motion is that the governing body approve and authorize the city manager to sign an agreement with All Site Contracting LLC to replace approximately 200 linear feet of 36-inch corrugated metal pipes with 36-inch HDPE pipe as presented for a cost not to exceed $64,650, subject to final review by city attorney. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item is for an HVAC installation at the Public Works Garage. This is basically a big metal oven that our fleet crews work in to keep our vehicles in repair. They do have heaters for the wintertime, but it gets pretty bad there in the summertime. We contacted multiple contractors. The low bidder was K&K Building and Mechanical LLC with a quote of $70,000. Staff recommends 15% contingency for electrical work to accommodate the new system for a total of $80,750.
Will the contaminants be filtered out through any kind of a UV system? Is that a part of this system?
We'd have to check with Kenny on that one. Yeah.
Just curious.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good point because then for ARPA expenses, it may become eligible for that.
And for the health of the employees.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So we don't know.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
We'll have to follow up with Kenny.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions?
Just wondering when this will be finished.
That I don't know.
Yeah, they're as soon as they're I think waiting on one last kind of quote, but I think he's ready to go as soon as you get approval here, and it should be a few weeks process.
Okay, that's
to get
good.
done. So our goal was I wanted it done in June, but
Yeah.
hopefully sometime in July it'll be up and running, and this summer they'll have air conditioning.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Javed, you looked as though you might have a question.
Oh, no, I was just skimming through.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, hearing no further questions, staff recommendation is that the governing body authorize the city manager to negotiate and sign an agreement with K&K Building and Mechanical LLC for HVAC installation at the Public Works Garage in a total not to exceed expenditure amount of $80,500 pending final review by city attorney. Do we have a motion?
Move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you very much, Alan. And then moving on to city prosecuting attorney.
Good evening again. June 7th this year, or a couple weeks ago, Mr. Leahy, our prosecuting attorney, notified me that he's going to terminate our contract with the city to pursue a position over at the Commonwealth Attorney's Office as Assistant Commonwealth Attorney. He's been serving us for almost 5 years now as a prosecuting attorney with misdemeanor civil issues and criminal offenses that are brought before the Prince County courts. Mr. Leahy did recommend two attorneys that are local, Mr. Michael Pignoni and Brad Marshall. City Attorney Dean Crowhurst and I interviewed them separately via phone and asked them a couple questions. One of the biggest concerns or one of the requirements that we were looking for in both candidates was the availability to the officers and detectives for criminal matters, advice, and guidance, and they were both agreed to do that. At the end, when we finalized everything, the biggest issue was going to be probably financial for the city, payment-wise, and Mr. Pignoni came in at $3,500, while Mr. Marshall came in at $4,000, but was going to look at it in 2 months again, and it could potentially be an increase. After talking to the city attorney, our recommendation is going to be that the city council appoint Michael Pignoni as the prosecuting attorney for the city.
Okay, thank you. And I see that he has the endorsement of the current Commonwealth attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And Mr. Marshall had the endorsement of an one of the judges in the General District Court.
Okay, thank you.
But it came in after this was written, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments?
I just have, this is more for my education. Why do we have our own city prosecuting attorney and not go through the Commonwealth attorney? Like I said, this is more for my own education.
Yeah, Dean is probably going to be the best one to answer this because this happened a long time ago. But from my understanding, it was about more responsiveness to our traffic violations. And right now they're having this big scuffle right now between the Commonwealth attorney, City of Manassas, and the county, where the Commonwealth attorney may no longer actually represent them for traffic cases and other things as well. If you notice in the budget, we don't get charged by the Commonwealth attorney. Instead, we pay out the prosecuting attorney. So a long time ago, the city felt that it was going to be better for representation, responsiveness, and financial reasons to have our own prosecuting attorney. And it's actually bearing out now with the changes with the Commonwealth attorney, where if they don't get more staffing, they're going to be unable to provide the service to Manassas and Prince William. So those two jurisdictions are looking at what they're going to be doing, whether they need to add staffing to the Commonwealth attorney or go their other contracted route. But I'd probably ask Dean. I think he knows the history better of kind of why the change happened. But we don't get billed by the Commonwealth attorney, so we're not. It's not a service that we're paying for. Instead, we're paying for our own.
Thank you.
Questions, comments? Questions? Yes.
So this is basically like a retainer fee, or are we paying them as we need them? Oh no, it is a per month. Yeah, flat fee per month.
Yep.
So is that the best route, I guess, to go with them? Do you expect that much workload?
I believe the workload is more than that.
Yeah.
Depending what he's charging in hours.
Oh.
And I think that's why Mr. Marshall said he would look at it in 2 months and see, where
If it makes sense.
financially.
And my last question is, between these two candidates, which one had the most experience dealing with other items besides traffic? Because I guess you and Dean had interviews with them.
Yeah, I think Mr. Marshall was actually an assistant Commonwealth attorney at one point, so he dealt more with the county and the city.
Yeah.
I'm not sure on Mr. Pignoni. I know he's a defense attorney, so I'm not
Yeah.
sure how much he actually played in certain misdemeanor charges.
Yeah.
But some of our officers have worked on cases.
Yeah.
They were pleased with his service.
That's why we had Dean also just check kind of their knowledge and experience and do kind of in-depth interviews.
Track record, I guess.
Correct, and Dean felt more comfortable with Mr. Pignon.
Because to me, $500 difference. I just would like someone with experience, to represent the city.
But the kicker is, well, not the kicker, but the variable is that in 2 months.
The 2 months, yeah.
Right, it could go up.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
And it's hard to budget
Yeah.
like that.
Plus responsiveness, that's going to be the key one. And then we felt that we would get more responsiveness from Mr. Pignon.
Mr. Picone.
And I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Is this a single-year contract? This is a single-year contract? I didn't see
I
that.
believe it is, yes.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Well, with that, staff recommendation is that the governing body appoint Michael A. Pignon as the new prosecuting attorney for the City of Manassas Park and authorize the city manager to sign a legal services engagement letter with Michael A. Pignon in substantially the form presented, subject to final review by city attorney. All in favor? Or, excuse me, do we have a motion?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion
One
carries.
abstain.
Thank you.
One abstention.
One abstention. Okay. One abstention by Vice Mayor Banks. Thanks, Chief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Know one of the attorneys.
Okay. Manager's report.
One thing this evening that I kind of previewed before was the audit engagement. So in terms of the ARPA money, we've been 100% confirmed for the county share that we're getting from the federal government directly of $3.394 million. We received half of that already, and we already have some reporting requirements for that. And then the non-entitlement unit portion, we're getting that from the state. So the federal government is sending it to us via the state. and we've already signed the letter of acceptance for the email that I sent you to receive that money. Right now, it's estimated that amount is $18,133,000. From our understanding about what the Secretary of Finance is telling us from the state level, based off the Treasury guidance, is that can only be reduced if it represents 75% of your FY20. Right, FY20 budget, and this is way less than that. So it is more than likely that it's not going to go down. It may go up though. So if other jurisdictions do fall within that category of 75%, or if they decline the money, then it kind of goes back into the pool. So theoretically, you may get more than that, but our understanding is that it shouldn't go down. And so we're expecting to get 18.1 million the first half, of which around $9 million we should be getting by the end of this month per the state. So when that reaches our bank account and we know it's real, we'll let you all know. And we're going to come back in July to brief you on all of the eligible categories. We have 7 programs right now, and each of those have multiple categories within them that define specific uses. And then there's Tony has this giant book right now of different guidance that we've received. So it's a little bit more complex than a lot more complex than CARES Act. For example, the pay issue. So CARES Act is a little bit easier. You can just do kind of a hazard stipend. Here they're dictating how you can do pay adjustments, and they have these strange things that sometimes don't align mathematically. So it's throwing us off a little bit, but we'll figure it out for you all and present in July kind of a comprehensive analysis of what's eligible and what our initial recommendations are. But right off the bat, again, as I discussed earlier, pointed out use that you're allowed to do because they understand how much money this is and how complex the reporting requirements are, is to hire essentially a program manager, or really more of a compliance, if you want to call that, a compliance officer, to help out your finance team with the tracking of this money. I mean, this is, if it's $21 million, you're talking about half of our general fund budget. So you're talking about another almost city, half a city budget. That's a lot to add on to our finance department's plate, where they have to do our normal work. Our normal audits coming up right now is on brief, and that's what they have to focus on. So we really do need someone to help us out with all the reporting requirements, the tracking of everything, the receipts. CARES Act, we can manage it ourselves, keep a good job with all the FEMA stuff. Tony and Pon and her team and the whole team of tracking everything, but this is a lot more. CARES Act was around $3 million. We're talking about $21 million here, and a lot more eligible uses that are eligible here. There's going to be a lot more receipts, a lot more transactions, and it's a lot longer time frame. So with CARES Act, we initially thought we only had roughly 6 months to spend it. So we, did the best. We actually achieved that goal. We spent it in 6 months. So there wasn't enough time to really even consider hiring a program. We just had to spend it and do our best to track the money ourselves. And for this one, though, we have until December 2024 to obligate, and then I believe it's December 2026 to spend. So, for example, what that means is you can start a contract in 2024 and keep paying it out through 2026, right? So you're talking about a multi-year program here that's really going to need that compliance support, especially if the Congress or something in a few years decides, hey, let's audit and let's randomly select jurisdictions, and Manassas Park randomly gets selected. You want to have everything in place. I've been audited by the federal government before, and when I was in the Army, it's not a fun process, very thorough. So you want to have those people in place that will help you navigate that process. So our request to you tonight is just to be able to advertise the position, not to hire, but to advertise, to start the recruitment process, and then in July come back and brief to you all the budget. That's certainly going to be, we know off the bat, our first recommendation is to please let us hire a position to manage these funds for the city. So tonight we're just looking for concurrence to start at least advertising the position.
That'll be very interesting to see what we're permitted to spend it on, to see the guidelines. That'll be
fascinating. It's a lot more
fascinating.
expansive than just COVID-19.
Okay.
It seems like it's a lot more oriented towards overall kind of economic development, helping society out with recovery, economically, with housing, even mental health. That's a big part of it as well. So you'll see there's a lot of elements that are part of this that are beyond, in my mind, COVID-19. but that are kind of trying to address maybe the fallout from COVID-19 and what the impact is throughout society from COVID-19. So we're hopeful that it's a little bit more flexible, whereas like in CARES Act, when we were doing the DSS was managing the rental relief and mortgage, like you had to have, good proof that because of COVID-19 that you lost your job or whatever it was, that there was a lot more kind of evidence required. This one seems to be more like, let's help lift everyone up. Like we know everyone's been struggling this last 15 months and lift everyone up. But you'll see there's a lot more categories for this than there was for CARES Act.
Okay.
Yeah. Doesn't mean we have to do everything, it's just there's a lot more eligible uses.
Okay, questions or comments? Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. Mr. City Manager, do you envision this position to be a project-based position or a full-time position? Because these monies are limited and will one day run out.
Think of it more as a 5-year hire, and if another position in the city opens up, then you can take it. But this specific position, I don't envision surviving beyond.
So a project-based type position.
Yeah,
Project-based. Okay.
But again, with the city, because we have turnover, like when we brought on people for temporary things, and sometimes something else opened up.
You can fit them into that. Sure, they apply.
Employees you don't want to lose.
Absolutely. The other question is somewhat related to the ARP money, but right now they're debating in Congress the infrastructure bill. $1 trillion. Have you heard anything as to any intel as to what you're hearing about the infrastructure bill and what we might benefit from that largesse?
Virgin McIntyre usually gives me an update. Politically, I'm not sure if it's going to happen or what form it'll come in, but certainly if it does pass, I think there's going to be a lot of benefit to localities in terms of infrastructure projects that we'd be looking to do. So this one, ARPA allows we're going to be able to do a lot with water, sewer, and stormwater projects with ARPA money, but no transportation projects. And the infrastructure bill will open things up more for additional transportation funding, at least from what I'm hearing as well, and additional funding for other water, sewer, stormwater projects as well.
My final question is prioritization of the ARPA money. Are you going to use the prioritization that we did as a governing body for the budget process and use that as a guide? Or will we do a separate prioritization process to determine the use?
It's going to be a little bit different because the categories aren't going to necessarily fit with our overall city priorities, but I think a lot of them will help us out. So our number one priority right now is economic development. That's one of the centerpieces of this. But does that mean you need a lot of money for that? Not necessarily, right? So it's the total dollar amount won't be necessarily dependent on what your priority is versus more what we think is needed to get it done. But yeah, where our priorities align with what's eligible uses, we certainly want to support those as a top priority. But so yeah, we can certainly do it that way as well. But what we're looking at is what are all the eligible uses? What do we need to get done? Like for example, the vaccination program. We're eligible to cover all of our expenses related to that, starting for some reason March 3rd. I don't know why they did this. So this March 3rd and afterwards, even though because we used all of our CARES Act money by December 30th, because that's when we thought we had to spend it. And then on December 28th, they said, oh no, you can spend it for another year. It's like too late. So we have a gap from January 1st through March 2nd, where we did a lot with vaccinations and everything else, and we don't have any federal money to cover that. So that the city's eating. We're submitting a lot of stuff to FEMA for that, but starting March 3rd and after, everything we've done for vaccination is eligible. That's not necessarily overall, not something we discussed as a priority, but it is something that a main purpose for this funds to.
So the money can supplant funding. We would supplant the funding. We can.
Yeah,
and
so
that would build our reserve or
you can't put that back in reserves. You have to spend that.
The money that we supplanted, money that
you can't put. There's requirements. You can't put any of this money or savings in reserves. You can't.
What would be this money? Would be the money that we spent. You can't. Okay, that's good.
No, they want you to,
okay, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, they don't want anything. The pension funds. They don't want you putting any money in the pension funds. I think tax cuts. They don't want, for some reason they put that out there. So they have specific regulations. So revenue loss is something we're able to calculate here. But interestingly enough, they have a formula to calculate it. It's not like, oh, me showing here's what we lost with meals taxes, here's what we lost with Parks and Rec.
Right.
It's just a formula, and that's what finance team is working on. Okay. And with that money, again, you can't take that
and then just put it into reserves or tax cuts. You have to spend it on
Spend it.
something else.
That's good. Okay, good.
So we'll be able to use that for, different capital requirements that aren't necessarily eligible for this, but are a priority of the. Yeah. So our first step is understanding eligibility right now, and that's what we had a meeting on today. And then we're going to engage with the departments to have them think about fleshing out programs and how much programs they think, how much they would need for certain programs. And then we'll come back to you all with a list of eligible uses, what can be certain programs, what they would cost, and then we can talk about how we want to structure all that and get things funded.
And the interesting part about this, they may recommend to us a project or something that we haven't even thought of that has an eligibility that we'll say, hey, that's a great idea, that type of thing.
And we don't have to spend it year one too, like we can keep learning more. So we can set aside, what we want to do in FY22. And then as we learn a little bit more what other jurisdictions are doing, right? That happened with CARES Act too. By the time we learned some things that other jurisdictions were doing, we had already kind of spent too much. So the good thing is we had many years to do this. So we want to have initial kind of game plans in place, but we shouldn't hesitate to adjust those as we start learning about other creative ideas that are being done out there.
Councilmember Javed, you had questions?
Yeah, I was just wondering if we could get that list of items before the July meeting.
Yeah, we can get that.
Okay,
Absolutely.
just so I can just skim through it and kind of.
You can go on like the federal website and get the
And they have it on there?
Official Treasury guidance.
Excellent.
Enjoy that read. So there's these things. We'll try to consolidate everything and send you all kind of the reading material beforehand.
Yeah.
So
But to Councilmember Moore's comment, I think a work session just for this would be a good idea to do, because, like I said, that's a lot of money coming in. So we can't decide that on one meeting. So maybe set that up maybe after we do the initial.
yeah, well, we have those. So we have the July 20th and then the August 3rd meeting that we
Yeah.
So maybe we just do back to back.
Back to back or something. But no, that's fine. But yeah, if we get the list there, maybe we can prepare ourselves before the July meeting as well.
We have, so technically there's July 27th that's in between. So if we want to reserve that as a special meeting to just focus on this. So you spend the 20th, 27th, and the 3rd. And again, you don't have to decide by the 3rd. We have, 5 years to
Exactly.
think about this. So we can take our time if we want to.
Okay.
But certainly there are going to be things that we're going to say, well, here's how much we spent on vaccination to date,
Yeah.
right? That we request to be able to reimburse the city for those expenses. So those things, are going to be easy that will come back.
It's good to be able to chew it over for a while.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
good. That's great. Do you have a follow-up?
No. Other follow-up was for the position we're going to advertise. You already decided on the salary base and all that stuff.
With HR and finance.
Okay.
And come up with kind of a good job description. And, so.
And it just.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was just saying, is this one individual or you said two?
One. It'll eventually, we're thinking two, but one's more on the procurement side and one's more on the compliance side. Those are two different things.
So for now, we're just
Right now,
advertising
just
one.
compliance, because that's what we're getting hit with right now is they're already asking for compliance reports from us, even though we haven't even received the money, we haven't spent a dime of it, we're already being asked for compliance reports from the federal government.
Lasso, are you comfortable with consensus, or do you prefer a formal vote?
Consensus is fine. 'Cause We're not going to take any action. It's just literally just advertising, but we're not going to hire anyone until you all vote.
Okay, any final questions or comments? Okay, so let's achieve consensus.
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yes.
Fine.
Okay.
Good to go.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Yeah. I think probably the big question on everyone's mind is, do we meet next Tuesday or not? And we don't, right?
I don't think we have to.
Okay.
Yeah, because the budget and the appropriations were voted on. I don't think we're ready yet to talk about
Right.
ARPA.
Not yet.
So I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, so we will strike the meeting for next week? Okay.
I don't think we have a meeting next week.
It was a question mark meeting.
Oh, it was if necessary. Okay. Yeah.
If necessary, okay. Well, it's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
I just had a request prior to the July 20th meeting where we talk about the calendar. Could we add at least 2 dates over that year to have joint meetings with the school board? Like maybe one halfway through the year and one at the end of the year so that we can kind of get on. We used to do that when I started. I was just hoping we could put that on the calendar as well.
You're talking about like a Saturday retreat thing, or
Yeah, or whatever day works for them. Just
what
twice
days though do you want me
there.
to put that on? You want me to?
Well, I was thinking if I told you now with a month out, maybe we could coordinate calendars. I don't know. Saturday morning worked historically.
Honestly, I think we should do it every quarterly.
Yes, but baby steps.
Yeah, I guess baby steps first.
Baby steps.
If you're looking for, so what would you want me to just put a Saturday in here, or how do you want this done?
Yeah, maybe in the fall, and then
Everybody will be back from vacation in
right.
the fall.
Yeah, so not over the summer, but in the fall. Then again, before budget gets crazy, February, March.
Would it be better to have it in the beginning of the school year, like the end of September?
Yeah, like maybe
versus-
September, then February.
So September, October, or January, February? Is that what we're?
Yeah.
September 18th.
Sure, that's awesome.
Does that work?
Sure, September 18th sounds
Yep.
good.
Now? Do you want us to check our calendars now?
Yeah, how about we check our calendars?
Okay.
And it would be in the-
Send a formal invite to the school board too.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it'd be like
Able
9
to
a.m.
interact with Dr. Saunders. Yeah.
School start
Yeah.
after,
Yeah,
It's
the
like the
18th is
16th or
good.
something, isn't it, of August? 16th or 23rd?
23rd, I think it is.
why don't we, I mean, that's going to be a lot hectic time for them. Let's give them a week, like, yeah,
Just to get them through the start of the year.
right. Just in case they have any hiccups, they want to make sure everything's going well with the school year, because remember, the kids are just coming back from being
Well,
quarantined.
you know, we have a former school board member here, so maybe she
Oh.
could comment on that.
There you go, Alana. What's a great date?
Is it hectic on the 18th, or
With the kids coming
is that a
back and
problem?
they don't know how to act because
I didn't view it as a problem. I wasn't. Beginning of the school year was not hectic when I was on.
Okay.
But of course, it wasn't COVID time, so.
Yeah, this
Okay.
probably.
Right.
Well, my only issue is October 16th. That's actually, no, it's actually,
How about September
yeah, October
25th?
16th is when
I'll be out of the country.
I'm in school.
Oh, fine.
Sorry.
And it's the end of the semester and I
I'm gonna
have
be
big
there.
papers due.
I'm gonna just stick with 18th.
We'll stick with 18th.
Yep.
Is everyone available September 18th?
So-
Yep.
And that may not be good for them, so it would throw us back into redecision anyway, so
Yeah.
we'll give it a whirl. Yeah, thank you. Okay,
And you want one at this, kind of second semester, right?
Yeah, end of January, beginning February.
That's what we did last time.
Yeah,
Was in January.
yeah, it was.
29th?
No.
Sure.
I wouldn't be available on the 29th.
You and I?
We want you to be there for the fun, so let's do a different day.
22nd.
22nd.
Holiday
January
in January.
Oh, King is the 17th.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you
Okay,
said.
the holiday.
17th.
17th.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right, it's right up here. We said the 22nd.
Okay.
Yeah, is that it? That's fine with me. 22nd? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And what's the, I guess, the expectations for these meetings? Is it city briefing and school briefing, or just school briefing?
You know, I think we should emphasize, well, yes, and in addition to that,
Yeah.
fellowship and getting to know one another and
Sure.
being able to get across that we want to work together. We want that sense of shared responsibility for the challenges of the city, those types of things. So, hopefully, cross our fingers, it'll work out. Okay. There's no, are you done with manager's
Yeah,
report?
so
Okay.
We'll put this on the calendar and then we'll reach out to schools. We'll send something to Deanne to see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Laszlo.
For the agenda item on the 20th.
And there's no closed meeting, so is there anything else for the good of the city? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn? Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries, we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
That's what we're
shortest meetings.
Yeah, all you have to do is put cookies on the table.
There's some cookies.